Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 30th anniversary of the Quality Partnership Council meeting. My name is Jim Boyle, and I'm a business management specialist in Region 3, and I'll be your MC today. A big thanks to the over 400 registrants for attending today's meeting. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping notes. There's a Q&A box at the bottom. Feel free to type a question you have at any time during any of the presenters' presentations, and we will answer it at the end. The meeting is being recorded. All attendees are muted, so you don't have to worry about your dogs barking, your kids yelling, or your kids barking. Well, maybe you have to worry about that. Before you ask the question, yes, we have the slides and the recording of the webinar will be shared with everyone after the meeting. In fact, all registered attendees should have received an email of the slides earlier this morning. At the end of the presentation, we will answer some of your questions live in the Q&A session. Any questions that are not answered live will be answered in a Q&A document that will be shared with all registered attendees. Closed captioning is enabled, and to view captions, click the live transcript CC button on the bottom of your screen. Lastly, you can download today's agenda with the links to the breakout sessions in the chat window. Before I turn it over to the first speaker, we will have a quick poll for everyone regarding their experience attending QPC meetings. If you're calling in from your phone or do not have access to the poll, you can type your response in the chat. And the poll is years of experience. This is my first QPC, 1 to 10 years, 10 to 20, or 20 or more, or 20 to 30, obviously. Okay, just a little bit more for everyone to get a chance to vote, and we'll see what the results are. Okay, a nice broad spectrum of attendees. Thank you for all your responses. With that, I'd like to introduce the FAS Mid-Atlantic Regional Commissioner, Dina Mclaughlin. Dina?
Thank you, Jim. And good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Quality Partnership Council. If you're new to the QPC, this is our primary industry engagement forum for the furniture and furnishing subcategory, the goal of which is to foster a better understanding and partnership between GSA, our valued industry partners, and the mutual customers we serve in government. So this year actually marks 30 years for this Quality Partnership Council, which is crazy. What a significant accomplishment to celebrate. Over 30 years' time, we've worked through highs and lows. We've seen growth in the market. We sometimes have seen declines. We've worked together and often with our customers right by our side on challenges, innovations, and improvements. We've relied on this group for your openness and candor time after time, and we've done our best to reply in kind, with a willingness to listen and a commitment to work hard to meet mutual goals. I'm very proud to be associated with this community, and my own proximity to it dates back to 1996, just 4 years after its inception, when I first came to work with the then Federal Supply Service. It's a privilege to stand in this role today representing Region 3 and the Integrated Workplace Acquisition Center, and I can't say enough about how grateful I am for the many folks on this call that have been with us for many years, as well as to the newcomers who continue to challenge the norms with your new ideas and feedback. So in a few minutes, IWAC's leadership team will be providing an update on our business, as well as 2 significant efforts: the recent revisions to the packaged furniture program and their expanded partnership with the Public Building Service. The successful response to these 2 challenges, as with many other challenges throughout the past 30 years, would not have been possible without your contributions. But first, we want to commemorate this 30-year anniversary with some brief comments from some special guests. I wanted to acknowledge Jack Williams, who I hope who has joined us to be able to say a few words, and Jamie Northrup. So Jack Williams was founder of the QPC. He was both my boss and mentor for some 15 years or so. I'd like to also acknowledge John Pitchford, who was Jack's loyal deputy, as well as Skip Duncan and Art Hackney, who were the leaders of the National Furniture Center, which we now call the Integrated Workplace Acquisition Center, whom I believe are also on the call with us today. So I just wanted to give a nod to those group of gentlemen that were really at the core, who built the Quality Partnership Council to be what it is today, and the forum that we still very much value. So first, I'm going to start with our trusted industry partner, one of our many trusted industry partners, Jamie Northrup, who has been with the Quality Partnership Council, I think 29 of the 30 years. And we've asked him to join us this morning for some brief opening remarks to share his reflection from his experience of having been with QPC almost since its inception in the winter of 1992. So with that, I am going to pass it over to Jamie.
Thank you, Dina. I can't tell you how honored I am to share this moment with you. Full disclosure, I'm going to do something I never do, and I'm going to read prepared comments. For the people that know me, I would never be able to stay within 2 or 3 minutes to capture 30 years. It's very difficult to capture 30 years of QPC legacy and its tremendously positive impact on GSA customers, industry partners, and Region 3 procurement team. QPC had a large impact on me personally and professionally as a participant and as a former board member. I joined my first QPC meeting at the National Furniture Center in Crystal City in 1995. I originally had thought I made the second meeting. As it turns out, I was there for the 3rd year, so I'm here 27 of 30. That day was 15 people at a conference table in a discussion led by Jack Williams and the Furniture Center management team that Dina just acknowledged, who pioneered the concept of QPC. It was a transformative and even risky step that was being taken. Jack and the Region 3 team were nudging GSA from a highly institutionalized approach to the schedules program into a forum for problem solving based on key feedback, positive and negative, from its 2 largest stakeholders. With that step came improvements in all 3 pillars of QPC. Industry had the opportunity to learn and listen to customer needs and bring better design and engineering innovations into the schedules program. Customer needs were better met as product choices emerged and customer satisfaction rose dramatically. GSA Region 3 took the opportunity to evolve its process. Its supply chain improved and enlarged, and schedules revenue increased. In the time since its inception, QPC has endured and continues to bring direct benefits. That is, despite dramatic changes in the federal government marketplace. So it has served as something of a glue as we collectively navigate the changing landscape. The changes have been major and complex. Things like 5 new administrations, each impacting GSA's mission and organization in some manner. Schedule consolidations that took place in 2010 with Schedule 71 and most recently with the MAS consolidation. Through that time, many federal strategic sourcing initiatives cropped up in multiple federal agencies, and each in some way impacted how the schedules program might be used. And then more recently, GSA's initiative with category management, which Dina plays a pivotal role in as a category manager. In all of these cases, Region 3 has used QPC as a tool to help us preview and prepare for those changes. We're all very fortunate to have this forum and the wealth of resources it's provided. To my industry colleagues, I encourage you to not only participate in QPC, but engage it. To GSA customers, such as the panelists featured in today's meeting, our heartfelt thanks for sharing what may become opportunities to work together with you and a chance to better understand your needs. And to Dina and Region 3, my deepest respect and appreciation of the tireless work you do and your commitment to making time for resources like QPC that so clearly benefit us all. Thank you, Dina.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Really appreciate your comments. And I too so appreciate your partnership and your contributions that you've shown so long to both the National Furniture Center and the IWAC, really just symbolizing the partnership that we've really needed to be mutually successful. So thank you so much for that. So I'm going to go on to introduce the rest of our speakers for this afternoon, or introduce the agenda. And I am hoping that we will be able to bring Jack Williams on for a few moments later in the agenda. So I wanted to give special thanks to our QPC board members for helping develop today's agenda. We have an exciting agenda for you. And I wanted to extend a special thank you to all of our guest speakers who have made today's event possible. The last couple of years have brought a lot of uncertainty for us all, especially in this business of furniture and furnishings. So we're thrilled to have Shay Badagashian from GSA's Public Building Service here today to bring a little more clarity on the future of the federal workplace. At GSA, our employees have begun to re-enter federal facilities in a hybrid fashion. Some will even remain fully remote. And we recognize that it's important to make sure that federal employees have everything they need to work, whether they are remote, in the office, or using a hybrid model. But we, like you, have been waiting for some clarity around exactly what that demand may look like and the impact on the furniture and furnishings business. The picture may not be crystal clear, as many agencies like GSA are starting to experiment and try new things. But Shay has some very valuable and current insights he'll be sharing with us today. Regardless of where our employees work, what has not or will not change is FAS's commitment to procurement innovation and improving the customer and supplier experience. So today, the catalog management team, also part of Region 3, Becky, Kate, and Peter, will share more on what they are doing to make it easier to do business with GSA. This initiative, which aims to improve the quality of data we are serving to our customers on our e-commerce platforms, such as GSA Advantage, while also reducing the burden on our contractors managing this catalog information, continues to be a top priority. While understanding that there is complexity to furniture, I believe their work will allow you to add more transparency for your product offerings and pricing, which in turn should drive additional business to your mass contracts and reduce contract duplication. Also, I'd like to welcome Steve Sizemore, Jeff Calhoun, and Steve Gervaisi, and the IWAC leadership team. They will be sharing updates on what they've been doing to address key concerns and improve the buying experience for our shared customers. You'll have an opportunity to also join them later this afternoon in 2 interactive breakout sessions where they are looking forward to hearing more of your feedback and ideas. Lastly, increasing access for small business and our underserved communities within federal acquisition is another very important goal for GSA, as it is for our federal agency customers. So we're fortunate to have Soretta Dyson from GSA Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization, hosting a breakout session to help you better understand the small business contracting programs and compete for more opportunities. And we're also fortunate to have Michael Zen and John Varghese from GSA's Office of Policy and Compliance here to show you how to access sales data using the Schedule Sales Query Plus tool. And that can help you understand the federal furniture market and your competition. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Ryan to proceed with our agenda.
Thanks, Dina. Hey, everyone. Thank you again for joining today. First off, as Dina and Jamie noted, 30 years is an amazing feat. More often than not, working groups come together for a short period of time, fix whatever the problem is, and wind down. But the fact that 30 years later, this group's continued to partner and endure is a testament to the great work we're doing throughout the QPC for government and for industry. It's not lost to me all the folks that led QPC before us and all the efforts they committed to making the organization work, from previous IWAC directors and the past and current QPC board members. We don't have a QPC unless you as industry show up and support these efforts, and you show up time and time again. We're at our best when we partner and develop a path forward together. And speaking of better when we partner, I think a case in point of that is what we accomplished with the packaged office program and shifting the contractor teaming arrangements. Despite the OIG audit, the program remains intact. And if anything, it even better aligns with how the business really operates and assists our customers. So I just want to send a big thank you to you all for all the support and engagement over the last 12 months as we work through that corrective action process. On more forward-looking topics, several IWAC vendors have reached out to see if we're going to shift QPC back to in-person forums. For at least the next few sessions, QPC is going to maintain a virtual footprint. And a big part of that is given the larger audience that we've been able to reach between industry and our customers. So we've been able to connect with and reach more people in the virtual formats. However, to support the need for more face-to-face discussions and engagements, especially if we're working on a problem or issue, I'm going to be putting out opportunities to meet when I'm in the Philadelphia office building, especially if you want to travel to our location and work through these problems in person. And also, if you want to do virtually, we're going to have virtual sessions available to you all. That way we're able to connect on a more regular and frequent basis. I'm hoping to kick off these engagement sessions around the July timeframe. We're going to be working the scheduling and managing the calendar of all this through our IWAC BD team. So there's going to be more to come in this area. In addition, the IWAC team will start traveling more as well as we get back to normal. IWAC will be sending 6 team members to NeoCon in Chicago this year. While we know that's a lot of ground to cover for 6 people, we will ensure that they have their walking shoes and are able to connect with as many of you as possible. So also look forward to more communication from the IWAC BD team for trying to get an agenda together for that time that we're out there. Just before we shift into the main content of QPC today, I want to turn it over to Sean Kelly, who will provide an update on the MAS program, and John Breen, who's going to share updates on several active projects that IWAC are currently supporting. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sean and John.
All right, great. Thanks, Ryan. Sorry, I was having some issues getting the video camera on. But yeah, just to echo what Ryan said, on the topic of packaged furniture, just to again thank all of you, for your participation and sticking with us throughout the process. I know it was long, it was arduous, and hopefully we came to the best conclusion that we possibly could. So, for that, I personally thank you. So on that topic of the packaged furniture program, just a reminder that the changes went into effect by refresh 11 on March 31st. The deadline, as part of those changes, we allowed for a 180-day transition period, and that deadline is September 27, 2022. So kind of times, pretty perfect with the end of the fiscal year. Over the next few months, we're going to send out reminder emails that I'm hoping to start around day 120 and every 30 days thereafter, just reminding everybody to get the CTAs in and to get their mods in. Provided a link here for the guidance and resources on the GSA.gov furniture and furnishings page. There is a number of guidance and resources that include recordings of previous presentations that we had given on the topic, example CTAs, the subcategory instructions, and we have a list of frequently asked questions that are on the way. So keep your eye out for those. They'll be there soon. And as always, if you have any questions as you're working through the modification process, and getting the CTAs from your existing or even new suppliers, feel free to reach out to your contract specialist, your contracting officer, or you can reach out to us at furniture@gsa.gov with questions. I'm sure everybody's going to have quite a few, so fire away and we'll take care of it. Next slide, please. All right, so EPAs, maybe the hottest topic as of recent, and I'm not going to dive too deep into this because we're going to hear from Steve Sizemore a little bit later on, who's going to touch on it as well. But just as a reminder that we do have the acquisition letter, which allows for some flexibilities with the EPA clause, and just to identify again some of those flexibilities in that it removes a 10% ceiling rate. It relaxes the time limitations that were associated with the EPA clause, relaxes limitations on the number of EPA increases that can be submitted. And it also clarifies that a contractor can add back previously removed products. And this is a point that I would like to clarify because I had received some feedback on this a little bit earlier today. I think this portion is intended for those products that were removed prior to the acquisition letter being issued. Not sure that there's quite a need to remove products now and then add them back right away, because we do have these flexibilities in place. We are able to consider the EPA request, regardless of the increase or the time limit. So, so just to clarify that this portion was more for products that had been removed previously before the AL. And then just one last note that I really wanted to point out, just a reminder that the EPA requests, although we do have these flexibilities, that they're not necessarily guaranteed or automatic. The contracting officers still have to do their job and their due diligence in determining pricing to be fair and reasonable. So they may reach out for some additional information. They may attempt to negotiate it if they feel that the situation is warranted, or even remove items if the situation is warranted. So just a reminder that we as the contracting community still have our due diligence that we have to do. Next slide, please. So one of the pieces of feedback that we've been getting recently, and I thank those members of industry who have brought this to our attention, is maybe a little bit of inconsistency in the information or documentation that has been requested for these EPAs. So I want to present this today in an attempt to clear that up. And so what is actually required for the EPAs? And you can see it on the screen. It's a cover letter or the modification letter where we ask that you explain the reason for the increase, commercial price list with effective dates, supporting price documentation, which could be, as an example, invoicing or published commercial price lists, the modification price proposal template, a notice of a price increase from a manufacturer or supplier. So this would be more applicable to dealers. The updated GSA schedule price list, which would be that Word or PDF document that you would upload to GSA Advantage, and it would be visible on Advantage and GSA eLibrary following the IFSS 600. And then a CSP or a certification of no changes. By and large, that there are no changes, so that certification could be made in the cover letter. And so where did this list of documents come from? You may or may not be aware, but I believe it was sometime around last year. There was a MAS modification guide that was released and made available to industry. This is a public-facing document that everybody has access to, and these required documents are verbatim out of the MAS modification guide. So obviously there is much more detail for each of these documents. So I would invite everybody to check out the MAS modification guide. If you have additional questions, your questions are likely answered there, and you could always reach out to your CO and CS. Next slide, please. So as I touched on a little bit earlier, that the COs still have the responsibility of making that fair and reasonableness determination. And in doing so, they may request some additional information that may help them get to that determination. So I just put together a list of some documents that may be helpful, which could be the Emod checklist, which I know is not a required document any longer. It's likely an older document that used to be available. So those of you who have been around for a while should be very familiar with this. The price increase announcement to the commercial customers, invoices, as I had mentioned earlier. CS and COs may ask for some market index information that would be specific to your industry. And then another thing that is asked for from time to time is a list of the top 10 selling products. And I think the main purpose behind that is that's going to assist the CO, CS conduct their market research in a little quicker. And it's logical, right? If you're selling, 10 products very, very frequently, then it just kind of makes sense to focus our efforts in on those products for the fair and reasonableness determination. And just a couple notes. So these are only examples, and there may be information that will be requested on a case-by-case basis, depending on the specifics of your products or services, and the EPA request. So there are likely things that may be requested that are not mentioned here. And just another note that additional information may be requested to support offered pricing when traditional methods to determine fair and reasonable pricing is inadequate. So if the contract officer, contract specialist goes through their traditional horizontal pricing analysis, they're having a difficult time maybe finding the same or similar items, they may reach out for some additional info to try and make that determination. Next slide, please. I think that might be it. Oh, one more. So looking ahead, one of the things that we've heard a few times over the last few months related to packaged furniture is the maximum order threshold. So currently, the maximum order threshold under packaged furniture is $5 million. But now with the changes to the program, where we're now requiring the CTAs in lieu of the letter of supplies and making it very clear that the manufacturers and the suppliers are providing the products directly from their contract, it stands to reason. There stands to be reasonable that we could now consider lowering that maximum order threshold. So one of the breakout sessions this afternoon is going to touch on this topic, where we're really just looking for some initial feedback on it. And then we intend to form a more formal working group, likely in the June timeframe, to really get moving forward with possibly making this change. So I would encourage anybody who would be interested to join us this afternoon, and then to join that working group as well. And hopefully we can continue to make improvements to the program. All right, and with that, I'm going to pass it off to John Breen.
Thank you, Sean, and good afternoon, everyone. And it feels as though I may be disconnected.
We can still hear you, John.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. On my end, it looks like I'm disconnected, but in that case, I'll move forward. Thanks for letting me know, Ryan. So good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to take a couple of moments of your time here to talk about IWAC's partnerships with the Public Building Service. One thing I like to point out is that IWAC and PBS, we share common interests and we share common stakeholders, and we serve them best when we work in partnership with each other. We've known that for quite some time, and in the last few years, maybe since the start of FIT, we've been much more intentional about our mutual relationship and very dedicated to working with each other to make sure we provide our customers with the best possible solutions. Today, I'm going to focus on just 3 of those solutions. The first I'd like to address is what is known as the Small Projects BPA. It requires a better name, as I am aware, and we are working on that. But the way we've defined small projects are those requirements that are below $1 million. Now, while that's something of a maximum threshold, though not formally, the expectation is most of the projects will be below $250,000, with many of the projects being much closer to $25,000 projects. So that's a very specific customer base that we haven't serviced well in the past. As for the structure of the BPA, it's going to divide the country into 3 zones, roughly aligning with our regional construct. Within each zone, there will be 1 awardee providing their support to PBS and its tenants in its zone. So that is unique, and that is going to be single award. Another unique feature of this BPA is it is going to provide enhanced design support. And I understand through contacts at the coalition, there might be some confusion about that. So typically when we think of design in the context of one of our BPAs, it's usually post-award work whereby there's field measurements and things of that nature. But in this BPA, we're making a provision for the provider to help Public Building Service and its tenants with the development of typicals, floor plans, things of that nature. There was some concern expressed that we had an expectation that the vendors would absorb this cost, but that is actually not an expectation. We expect this service to be both priced and paid for by the government, probably preceding an ultimate order for furniture. And we can certainly address any further questions about that. And when the RFQ is released, and that's anticipated to be released the week of May 23rd, if the language is still not clear, I would encourage you to take advantage of the question and answer period to get clarity on that point. Another initiative we're currently engaged in is a continuation of a prior program. So about 5 years ago, we put in place a BPA that covered the geographic PBS regions of 1 through 4, and it allowed for both IWAC and PBS to place orders in support of tenant agencies. It still is envisioned as a program by which both PBS and IWAC can order against. At this current time, it is an active procurement. We made a determination of a need for discussions, and we solicited revised proposals, or quotes rather. Those revised quotes are still pending evaluation, and in light of procurement sensitivities, there's not much more I could share about that procurement other than we hope to make an award in late June timeframe. The third initiative I'd like to discuss is what's formerly known as Office in a Box, and has since been renamed Home Office Solutions. Now, I understand that original name is probably not likely to go away easily, and over time it might morph into Home Office Solutions in a Box or something like that, but the official name is Home Office Solutions. And this is a program whereby GSA recognizes that the workforce is changing and the nature of the workplace is changing. Many employees are going to be working from their homes or other remote locations, and we want to provide them with tools they need to work efficiently and effectively. And one way we're contemplating doing that is through Home Office Solutions. This is a program by which federal employees will be provided with a suite of appropriate products, both furniture and IT, that will allow them to work safely and effectively from their remote locations. As it stands today, we expect that our current offerings are adequate to provide the necessary equipment. In other words, we do not anticipate soliciting for a BPA or other contract vehicle. The expectation is that the requisition channel will be commonly used to support this program. GSA Advantage may be used to support this program. So we don't feel the need to proliferate vehicles to support it. Our challenges right now are less about product and vehicle and more about logistics and funding and cost considerations. So when we talk about this program, a lot of times, the folks on the team kind of conjure up hypothetical situations and what it would look like to support that situation. And, one expectation is task chairs will be a commonly requested and ordered item. And when you think about the task chairs that are available through our requisition channel, a common chair might cost around $300. But those are intended to be drop shipped. So now if we have to worry about last mile delivery and then inside delivery with some unboxing and installation, the ancillary services can cost about what the product does. And on its face, that's concerning. A $300 chair plus $300 in ancillary services looks a little expensive and costly. However, we also recognize that not every individual is going to be able to receive and unbox their own product or install their own product. And we have to be cognizant and sensitive to that and offer solutions to support such folks when they arise. So all this, creates a lot of questions and analysis, and we're in the midst of discussing them so that we can offer a program that's both efficient, effective, and equitable to all potential participants. So with that, I believe I'm going to turn it back to Ryan, who's going to have some additional comments before we move on. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it. So just a quick apology. So apparently our Zoom software rebooted this morning, and it seemed to default us to 100 attendees when we usually have higher limitations. So some of you may have missed opening remarks where we're celebrating 30 years of QPC. So apologize on the delay getting in, but it's being recorded and you'll be able to go back and watch that part of the session. Just lastly, I just want to take a moment to share some news and recognition. Our fearless QPC leader, Ivana Henry, will be departing IWAC as our business development director. She'll be heading over to GSA's General Supplies and Services, or GSS portfolio. So she's heading there this week. But to think back on 30 years of QPC, Ivana really took on the stewardship of QPC to heart as a top focus area and ensuring IWAC continued this trend of excellence and always providing fantastic and timely content for you all as our industry partners. So she's been integral to the team the last 7 years, working multiple areas beyond just business development. And the support she provided, went above and beyond just IWAC and GSA overall. So while we're going to miss her in a day-to-day role, I'm definitely going to miss her and her support every day. She's still going to be supporting IWAC and industry just from a different perspective with a different part of the GSA organization. So Ivana, I'll keep saying I'm going to miss you tremendously, and I know our industry partners and our customers share those sentiments. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ivana just for a few words. Thanks, Ivana.
Thank you, Ryan. And I just want to first say that I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to you, Ryan, not just for those really kind words and all of the kind things you've been saying all for the last couple of weeks and the support, but all of the support that I've gotten from you, from the entire IWAC team during my time, both as the BD director and before that as a program analyst on the NSN team. I've learned more than you all probably realize from working closely with you, John, Sean, Linda, and before you, Meg, Jeff, and Brian, that I know the truth is that I've been the lucky one to be part of this team. I wouldn't have either the business knowledge or the confidence to take on this new opportunity without having worked with and learned from the best of the best, that being the entire IWAC team joining us today. In the background or just listening. I'm also so grateful, of course, for the opportunity I had to be part of the Quality Partnership Council for the last, I guess, 7 or so years. To work with this industry, in particular has been amazing. The collaboration, the communication that takes place before every change, and just how open and forthcoming you all are with your feedback and ideas. It helped. I've seen how it helps make the best decisions and prevents any issues when changes are made or minimizes them. And that's been happening for 30 years, which is amazing. And it's definitely a best practice that I'm going to take with me into my new role. So I guess I would be saying that I miss all of you, but the truth is our paths should definitely cross in my new role as a management and program analyst for the acquisition management office in general supplies and services. I'm excited to be able to work with another great team on a variety of process improvements, which will allow me to continue working towards the same overall goal, right? Improving our federal agency and supplier experience when working with GSA FAS. So I know that you, industry and the IWAC team will continue to be key stakeholders for me and the projects that I'll be working on there. So I hope we'll stay in touch. Thanks for the memories, and cheers to another 30 years of QPC. And with that, I think we're going to go back to Jim to see if we have time for any questions.
Thanks, Ivana. Yes, normally this is when we would have some questions, but we're running real tight to the scheduled remarks and presentations. So we're going to have to just answer the questions that came in the Q&A document that we'll send out to all registered attendees. I know John and Sean are probably very devastated, but I'm sure they'll understand. So again, the Q&A questions will go out. They will be answered in a written form and go out in a document to all registered attendees.
And I'll add that Sean and Ryan are going to be in one of the breakout sessions this afternoon. So if you'll probably get a chance to have a discussion and get some of those questions answered there as well.
Correct. Okay, next slide, Ivana. So we have 3 small business spotlights for this year's QPC. The spotlights are a brief video from just a few of our small business manufacturers doing great things in the furniture industry. First up is Loftwall Inc., a small business manufacturer specializing in privacy solutions located in Grand Prairie, Texas.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Restivo. I'm the VP of Sales here at Loftwall. Thank you for taking a few moments with me today to learn more about Loftwall's offering and more about our GSA contract. We are a furniture manufacturer. We're headquartered in the Dallas, Texas area, and we are obsessed with privacy. So all of our solutions solve privacy problems. And so today I just wanted to show you a few pictures of some of the products we offer. Before I do that though, this is a picture of our headquarters. Like I said, we're proud Texans, and this is a fun shot we recently took outside our office. But as we look at products we offer, it could be a room divider on wheels. It could be a room divider linked together to create privacy for an entire team. It could also look like this: counter shields or desk shields to create division between employees or the public. And as employees are coming back to the office, these types of solutions are more important to have than ever. It could also look like this. It could be a sound absorbing option that looks good at the same time. We have weave, and we also offer chisel here with patterns cut into sound absorbing materials. And a few more really nice looking options here that are all on contract with GSA. So like I mentioned, we are made in the USA here in Dallas, Texas. We also source as much as possible from the state of Texas. And with that, we are able to ship quickly. So we are shipping within 5 days for the majority of our products. So if you have a fast privacy need, Loftwall is definitely the one to reach out to. We are offering volume discounting as well. And you can learn more about Loftwall on our website at loftwall.com, or you can email me directly at srestivo@loftwall.com. Thank you so much for your time today, and I look forward to working with you.
All right, thank you, Stephanie. Our next presentation will be from Shay Badageshan, Customer Planning Division Director in the Office of Portfolio Management and Customer Engagement. Shay?
All right, thank you, Jim. I appreciate it. All right, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shea Badageshan. I'm the National Director of Customer Planning within PBS's Office of Portfolio Management and Customer Engagement. Extremely excited to be here today. I wanted to just take a moment to thank FAST Commissioner Dina Mclaughlin for allowing me to come here, work with her team, and present to you all today. These type of, I would say, events are important to make sure that, all of the different components within GSA are working together along with the private sector to ensure we're meeting the needs of the federal government. So today I'm going to take an opportunity to kind of walk you through a couple of the things that we're learning on the PBS side of the house from our federal, our federal customers. Related to kind of their real estate footprint post-COVID. I'm going to start out with a brief overview of kind of my team, what we do, how we interact with the customers. Then I'll talk about kind of where we are, kind of what we've been experiencing over the last couple of years. And then I'm going to share some information with you, some direct feedback from our customers as to how they've been managing kind of, I would say post-pandemic environment, and essentially kind of what their thoughts are on how the future of their real estate footprint is going to look. So just kind of starting out, I wanted to make sure that I gave you an overview of kind of my division, the customer planning division. All right, so my division is one that is responsible for managing a relationship with PBS customers. Essentially, we preach accountability, right? We emphasize service excellence, partnership, with our customers, performance value, and we do this through what we call client delivery teams or account teams, all right? Our goals are focused on planning, helping the customers to align, with mission needs and kind of what, some of the strategies and things that we are doing within GSA. Partnership, problem resolution, which as you can imagine comes up a lot, and then intelligence, which is kind of the big one that I'm going to touch on today. We are responsible for the relationship, I would say, between our customers and our GSA stakeholders. So we are constantly taking information that we're getting from our customers, bringing it back to our GSA team, and essentially taking initiatives, opportunities, and tools from the GSA team to the customers. So one of the things that I wanted to make sure that I covered was the relationship between the national account leads, which are the folks that are on my team, and some others, I would say, within the regions. So the folks on my team are referred to as national account leads, and we have one for each and every customer that we have on the PBS side of the house. They bear the most responsibility for the relationship between PBS and our client agencies at the headquarters level. And they own kind of that success that needs to be kind of, I would say, obtained between the regional teams, the national teams, the headquarters. That is their kind of single goal, to make sure that we have that successful relationship. Within each region, we have a regional account lead that is responsible for each customer. And they are supported by their own regional teams. So it's the relationship between the national account lead, the regional account lead, and their team that actually makes up that PBS national team. And I would say that team, they're responsible for intelligence management, the portfolio, the relationship management, improving, I would say that the processes that happen between the groups, promoting teamwork, and then the communication, which is usually the biggest and most important thing. The communication, I would say, between the groups, because there's a lot that can be, I would say, missed over the course of time when you're communicating with multiple groups at multiple levels. So I did want to make sure that I talk to you all today about our focus. And I think that everybody can appreciate the fact that over the last 2 years, as we were dealing with the pandemic, there were I would say there was a lot where we focused on how people were dealing with the effects of the pandemic. All right, so my team was receiving calls from our GSA customers who had real estate needs, who were asking, how is my space being cleaned? What regulations apply to me? Is my office open? What do I need to do if I'm going into the office? What do I do if I'm not? How do I connect with your team? So all of these questions were related to the pandemic and essentially dealing with the effects of it. It was only till, I would say, most recently that we started seeing a shift in the focus of customers, naturally, as people started returning to the office, where individuals were asking, how are we going to return to the office safely? Are the systems okay? Is the water fountain working? Do we need to worry about the cleaning of surfaces? And as they started coming into the office and seeing that things were in good order, they started asking, well, what do we do with this space? Everybody's not coming back into the office because now that folks are realizing that we can be equally as productive at home as we can in the office. So should we continue to invest in real estate when we are recognizing that it may be a bad investment? So the conversations that my team has been having with these customers have taken place in two forms. One we refer to as our CFO Act agency engagement. And the other is the future of workplace surveys. And I'm going to get into both in just a little bit. First, I did want to start with just a brief summary of our, I would say, return to the workplace status, okay? Of the 71 customers that we have in GSA that have occupancies with GSA space, 59 of those customers never left, have already returned or started phasing back into the office, okay? Now that's as of March 5th. Previously, that number was 31, and that was in January. So you can see it's pretty clear that majority of our customers are now starting to come back in some way, shape, or form to get acclimated with the new kind of work environment. We have one customer that is indicating that they'll be returning to the office by June 30th. Previously, that was 7. And then we have 11 customers that are still determining or don't know when they're coming back. And previously, that was 33. So clearly, folks are coming back in. And as they're coming back in, they're starting to deal with the challenges of how do we plan for this space? How do we plan for the people that are supposed to be in this space or that used to be in this space? So first, wanted to start with the CFO Act engagements. And as an agency performance goal, GSA has committed to right-sizing the GSA real estate footprint. Okay, so what that means is that GSA is going to work on right-sizing its portfolio with our federal partners by disposing of unneeded assets, reducing costly leases, optimizing space, essentially adjusting the portfolio based on the changing needs of the federal workplace. And the way that we're going to capture this information is by the creation of what we call national workspace plans. Now, what is a national workspace plan? Essentially, it's a plan where we at GSA have a conversation with our customer and really work with them to go over specific things that we put into this plan. Those things are kind of a current status of their portfolio. It is analytics related to a number of different areas regarding their portfolio, strategies, opportunities, and then kind of short-term and long-term action items. All of that we put into a plan, allowing the customer to really have a clear understanding of where they are, where they could be, and how we can assist them to get where they want to be. So here, I wanted to give you just a small taste of what we do from a portfolio analytics standpoint. And this is just a small example of what we're doing with our customers when we meet with them. When we do meet with our customers, we are talking to them about 3 main areas. We're talking to them about their real estate in as it relates to markets, high rent buildings, and their most expensive occupancies. And for us, we found that we needed to make it a point to highlight I would say the data points that really spoke to customers, and dollars always always catches customers' attention. Here, what you're looking at is a graphic of what we would show a customer related to their building. So for this customer, if you're looking at the top row, you can see they're in the J. Edgar Hoover building. And what we've highlighted is here's the square footage that you're in, 1.7 million square feet. We then show them kind of their occupancy count, how many people are in the building. And then what we do is we show them their utilization rate, right? The square footage divided by that occupancy, that occupancy count is what constitutes that UR, okay? And then we give them the rate per square foot that they're paying. Once they see that information, and hopefully they're familiar at some level with this type of information, or at least the occupancy, we highlight what you see on the right-hand side, which is the reduction piece. If a customer is looking to take advantage of, maybe reducing the space, everybody's not coming in, they're seeing empty desks as they go into the office, what we do is we give them a sense of what that's going to look like. So for this J. Edgar Hoover building, if you were to reduce by 5%, it would equate to about 88,000 square feet. And then essentially that then equates to a savings that can be achieved as well. And for us, what we found is that in today's environment, those are the kind of numbers that customers need to make hard decisions about where they want to go and how much they want to invest in space moving forward. Here we have the GSA workplace services and solutions that we provide for our customers. Okay, so some of them are emerging services and some are not. But what we wanted to do is when we went to go talk to these customers, and I believe it was John Breen who mentioned, these are services that are offered to the customers that we need to make sure they understand are there for them. If they're interested in a workplace engagement, if they are in need of furniture and IT, home office solutions, or if they're interested in co-working, maybe co-locating with a particular group that another federal agency that they work with all the time, and they want to try something innovative and they want to share space, maybe this is a solution for them. The goal here is to make sure that when we're going in front of a customer, not only are we telling them, here's the art of the possible from a number standpoint, we're putting the solutions in front of them. We're showing them that we do have solutions in this workplace engagement area, in these home office solutions that we want you to actually sign up for, because we're always looking for folks to do pilots with. We're always looking for folks to really take a sampling, maybe in their high-level markets of one of these solutions and apply them. We're always looking for those folks that want to step out there with us and really be the example for the rest of the federal government. So it's important for us to be able to show them where they can make those changes. For our CFO Act engagement, the reports that we put together, we actually provide a recommendation for each one of the customers and identify which one of these solutions would be most beneficial for them. So what are we learning? Initial observations right now during these engagements are that many of our agencies have limited to no visibility or just no control over their bureau's portfolio managing efforts. And that came as a surprise to us. I think from our standpoint within PBS, we expected headquarters to be taking a more active role in helping to shape what their components, bureaus, and other groups are doing. And as of right now, there are a number of hurdles that aren't allowing that to happen. Space optimization funding is a major challenge for these customers. Many of our customers are telling us their budgets are already baked. They have not been able to obtain the funding that they would have imagined in order to kind of optimize their space and be aggressive in doing so. So they're constantly asking GSA for funding assistance, which is challenging in and of itself because we ourselves face our own financial challenges. And then customers are interested in right sizing closer to the expiration of their occupancy agreements. And if you're unfamiliar with what that is, GSA, when we have folks in our space, we execute an agreement between the agency and GSA, which is an occupancy agreement that has the term and all of that in there. Our customers have indicated that they don't want to stop midterm and make a change. They are looking to do that towards the end of those expirations, and some of our deals are 10, 15, 20 years long. So next, I wanted to talk to you about the other way that we are having conversations and learning from our customers, which is the Future of Workplace survey. So this is a very significant effort that we have been engaged in for the last, I would say, year and a half. The purpose of the effort is really just to gather information from our customers on high-level trends, opportunities, challenges they're experiencing, how policy and technology are going to play into the future of their space. The intended outcome is for us to really take information that we are getting from our customers and bring it back to our GSA and sometimes external stakeholders so that they can have a better understanding of how things are going to be managed. And you have to excuse me for a second. Just need to make sure that I take care of that. I apologize. The use of the survey. So for us, the survey is used for portfolio planning efforts. We try to take the information that we are getting from our surveys and help our regions, help our national level stakeholders identify who are the customers that are ready to step out front and engage with us. Who are the customers that are looking to make major changes when their portfolio, whether that's an increase in occupancies or a reduction in occupancies, because that has a financial impact to GSA. And also, essentially, who do we need to target for education? Because what we find is that a lot of the challenges that we experience with our customers are due to them just having or not having the appropriate amount of information. So again, this survey serves a number of purposes. And who's the audience? Again, GSA, our customer agencies, and in some cases, we do provide high-level summaries to OMB. So a little bit about the survey. The survey is broken into 3 sections: policy and technology, space and related questions, and then information sharing. There are 24 questions, and those questions are not, I would say they're not asked in the typical way. We don't send a survey to a customer asking them to fill it out and send it back. We do it in an interview style. So every single national account lead for all of our 71 customers goes to the customer, sits down with them, and asks them these 24 questions to get this information. And I think you can see by the response rates that we have. In Q1, it was 90%. In Q2, it was 91%. That this is a pretty effective method. I think a lot of people have survey fatigue, so we're very pleased with the responses that we're getting. And then you can see that kind of the response is broken down by customer segment. You can see we have 44 general office customers that are responding, 4 related to the courts, and then 8 law enforcement, 2 public facing. So again, we feel as though the method that we're using is helping us to get good responses from our customers. So now I'm going to walk you through just a couple of the responses that we're receiving, so you can get a sense of what our customers are telling us about coming back into the office in the future. So first, I'm going to start with the policy and technology section. We asked our customers, like, which 3 reasons were influencing their decisions, as far as, changing, influencing their decisions for policy. And their top answers were sustaining a high level of productivity, employee satisfaction and work-life balance, and then the ability to retain employees, which was new for Q2. And the reason why I wanted to highlight that is because for us, having customers indicate that the ability to retain employees was a major reason that was influencing their decisions is huge for us. I think previously, prior to the pandemic, there was this misnomer that work could not be done. Now, as people are coming back, some had employees that left, that retired, that decided to take other jobs, folks that are not necessarily ready to come back into the office. So there's an understanding through leadership in these agencies that there needs to be more of a focus on how do we keep folks engaged and how do we retain them now that this environment has changed. We also found that 54% in Q1 and then 49% in Q2 of our customers responded that they're making improvements to their technology. The top 4 types of improvements are virtual working environment, hardware updates, improved VPN and cybersecurity and bandwidth, and then secure access, file access and transfer. This also was, for us, we were very pleased to see this. Are the numbers as high as we'd like to see? Not necessarily, but we are happy to see this mainly because during the pandemic, we had numerous calls where we had difficulty getting in contact with agencies because many of these IT systems were not necessarily built to support, a significant number of employees working from home. And then also the agencies were having difficulty internally just communicating. The other reason this is important is because, secure file access transfer, the hope for us within PBS is that for many of our administrative facing, agencies, that looking at the file access transfer, how they're maintaining their records, how they're conducting business, a lot of space is taken up when folks are, they have filing systems that are taking up a significant portion of their space. Can we change that dynamic? Is that a good area for us to target when we're talking about consolidations, co-locations, et cetera? We asked agencies about how they are tracking utilization of their space and how they're going to monitor the use of their resources. And we found that 69% have some sort of system to track space reservations. And then, 76% track space utilization data. We found that, that was phenomenal. For years, and many of you all may be familiar with the reduce the footprint measure that was put out by OMB. We worked with OMB to work with agencies to kind of, reduce their footprints. As a result of that effort, many of our agencies were not willing to share this type of data with GSA because they didn't want it used against them. So hearing that they're now looking at this type of data to make space decisions for themselves was a positive for us, because we do feel like there's a better way for them to be utilizing their space. And we try not to use the word reduction, we use the word optimization, okay? And you can see there on the right, kind of how, some of the different ways that folks are kind of looking at tracking this information, badging, daily check-in, et cetera. So again, this is the type of area where we would want to partner with our, with our folks, with our customers to ensure that we're utilizing this to make smart, effective business decisions when it comes to customer space. We also ask customers to identify all the uses of space, when they return to the office. And each customer could pick as many of these categories as they wanted. Essentially, we were just looking for the one where most customers had identified as, being their top option. And we found that the majority of our customers wanted to use their space for training and collaboration, which makes sense. If folks are productive at working at home, when they come into the office, people don't want to have to be heads down and work. They can do that at their homes or wherever they're remote working from. When you come in the office, the expectation is you're able to collaborate, you're able to train, you're able to stand around the water cooler and share experiences and stories. That is what the new environment is going to look more like. And I think what's happening is agencies are starting to recognize that, and they're starting to plan accordingly. We did ask customers how they were planning on using their individual workstations moving forward, and they indicated that they would use it for hoteling purposes, touchdown spaces, in individual workstations. And then we do have a couple of customers that did indicate they're already looking for the short-term co-working solutions, which was actually a surprise for us. We had been pushing that. We hadn't seen a whole lot of agencies that were willing to jump out there, and to hear that some of them are already looking to, go into spaces where they don't have an assigned seat and they have other entities around them is a positive, and we will work with those customers to highlight those examples. So we also asked our customers kind of how they saw their space changing in the near future over probably the next 3 to 5 years. And overwhelmingly, our customers said that they were looking at keeping their space the same, or they were only looking to decrease between 5 and 15%. Very surprising to us. I know many of you have probably heard there's an expectation that there's a huge wave of, government reductions and government returns of space that are on the way. And I'm not saying that's not going to happen, but I am saying that right now our customers are still figuring out how that's going to happen. So again, these are the opportunities that we're looking for to go in, educate customers to say, this is how you can accomplish that goal. And I think as we continue to do that, we'll see these numbers increase. This one in the space and related, section is a big one for PBS. All right. For us, we are always, looking to understand how customers are expecting to, release space to us, or if they're going to cancel projects. Has a huge impact on our bottom line. It has a huge impact on our relationship with, the market. If we're canceling projects in the middle of a procurement, obviously it doesn't look like we're operating in good faith. So extremely huge question for us. And for those of you who are not aware, when we talk about the right to release space within, for GSA, that occupancy agreement I talked about earlier, that's a document where for a certain fee, we give a customer the right to cancel their space with 4 months notice. We call it the 120-day notice. So if a customer is in a space, they give us that 120-day notice. After that 120 days, they can walk away. Obviously for GSA, that's not the greatest thing because we are left, paying for that space if it is not in a federal building. And also, for us, it can cause some major challenges when it comes to trying to backfill space. So we did ask our customers, how many of you are planning to give back space and use your 120-day notice? How many of you are planning on canceling projects? And overwhelmingly, our customers said, no, we're not planning to do that. So we were very pleased to hear that. When we spoke to our customers, we wanted to know kind of what they were looking at to determine how to utilize their space. What tools and metrics made sense for us to really talk to them about, and kind of what within their own organizations were they using. Our customers told us they were using 4 specific tools, government and private sector utilization rate benchmarks, occupancy data, visuals, which are space layouts, design documents, and financial data. The top 2 metrics and tools that the customers plan on using are the financial data and the occupancy data. Again, we were very pleased to hear this because for years we've been trying to push this in front of customers to say, this is what you need to be focused on. It has become very clear that those financials and those occupancy numbers are going to be kind of the cornerstone of how agencies determine who's coming back, when they're coming back, if they're coming back, and how. In section 3, which is the information sharing section, we always try to make it a point to get a sense of how openly customers are communicating with with the senior leadership of the agencies we work with, are communicating with their employees. So we asked them, have you surveyed your employees on, the following topics that were just mentioned And if that information can be shared with GSA, because again, like I said, that has been an issue in the past, customers having information and not sharing it. We weren't necessarily surprised to see that, 55% in Q1 and 46% in Q2 had not surveyed their employees on these topics. So that's not necessarily, I don't want to say it's a bad thing, because many agencies, let's be honest, they're just coming back into the office. But many of those customers are just trying to figure out, at least at the leadership levels, where do we go from here? Many are dealing with union agreements. Many were dealing with kind of the conditions in which agencies are coming back. Some are not even fully back, as I indicated. They may just, their leadership entities may be back. So they haven't necessarily got to kind of thinking through all of these different options. But if you look at the overall numbers for Q1, and then the overall, the numbers for Q2, you can see that the numbers are going up. So you can see that over the course of time, we expect those numbers to continue to increase as folks get, better acclimated with the work environment, understand the trends and I would say the expectations of their employees. And then down below, a new question that we asked in Q2 was, do customers intend to use any metrics to monitor the utilization of space as they return to the office? 24% of our customers said they had no plans or their plans were unknown. And then 54%, which is over half clearly, responded that they would be using utilization and space occupancy data, which was a positive. We think that number is going to continue to go up. And, again, it's our job within PBS to make sure that customers not just have the information, but they understand how it can be used. So some of the observations based on the survey responses that we've received, the majority of our customers, like I said before, are looking at keeping their space the same, at least for now, or decreasing only by 5 to 15%. Okay, that's what we're seeing. But again, it's early. Folks are just getting back in the office. So we do think those numbers may increase, but we will see. We did see an increase, as I just stated, of surveys of increasing customers surveying their employees, which is a positive. We do think those numbers will continue to trend in the upward direction. And again, those questions are about teleworking policy and their preferences. So we look forward to getting that feedback from them. When we engage customers, it is imperative that we start those conversations with occupancy data and financial analysis. I think in the past, on the PBS side, we have had conversations with our customers talking about kind of what the macro level overview was for the federal government. And while that is extremely important, it's going to be important to help the customer understand that this engagement is like a suit. We're going to tailor it to your specific needs and expectations, not just give you a universal UR that we expect you to get down to. So Commissioner Nina Albert, PBS Commissioner Nina Albert has emphasized that we focus on optimization, not just reductions. And then finally, when engaging with our customers, we need to focus on how they anticipate using the space. People want an exciting kind of experience when they go back into the office. I know some of you all have heard this, that private sector companies are looking at doing innovative things to bring people back. So we need to focus at GSA within PBS. We need to focus on that as well. When people are coming in, what do they want to see? How do they want to collaborate? How are they going to use the space versus just giving them that standard office with a whole bunch of desks where people aren't free to kind of collaborate freely. And again, I think that there's a lot, again, this is just Q1 and Q2 results. A lot may change, as we go through the different seasons. But for the most part, we are confident in these responses and we expect them to trend one way or the other. So with that, I guess I'll stop here for any questions we have. So Jim, I'm not sure if we have any, but
yeah, thanks, Shay. We have a few, but we are running a little past
Okay.
schedule here. So we're going to say thank you very much and remind the attendees that we will get out the Q&A document with some of the questions that came in shortly after today's QPC. So thank you,
Jim,
Shay.
if
It seems like you're off the hook a little bit.
Jim, one thing before I go, I did want to say, I put some links in the presentation for you all. So, we do have FAST national account managers and PBS national account managers. If there is a collaborative effort that you're looking to engage in, reach out to these folks and we will definitely at least have that conversation with you to see what opportunities are out there. Thanks, Jim.
All right. Thanks, Shay. Okay. We have our next small business spotlight coming up next. It comes from Via Inc. Via is a small business seating manufacturer based out of Sparks, Nevada, manufacturing in Reno, Nevada.
Via Seating is based out of Reno, Nevada, and we've got 4 main differentiators. Number 1, we've got the strongest warranty in the industry for a seating-only manufacturer. Number 2, we use our proprietary blend of foam in almost everything in the line. We call it our secret sauce. Number 3, we've got 48-hour manufacturing time on almost everything, with the exception of outdoor seating. And number 4, we've got the broadest range of seating available, all under one brand here at Via. Via Seating is small business certified and has been on GSA contract for over 25 years. As a seating specialist, Via is a valuable teaming partner and can work with other manufacturers to support any project. Also, as we specialize in seating only, Via can build chairs to meet specific needs, like ballistic nylon backs for heavy-duty use, or jury-based seating for judicial applications, as examples. Via just received the patent for our new proprietary copper-infused mesh. This is a self-sanitizing mesh that can be used on all Via mesh back products. Our GSA contract number is GS 28F 005CA. Please visit viaseating.com for more information.
Thank you. Our next presentation is from the GSA Catalog Management Office. Please welcome our presenters, analysts Kate Koch and Becky Kaufman, along with Peter Hahn, Branch Chief, on hand to help answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, Jim. I can take over the screen so I can share my slides. Yeah. Okay, great. So thanks, Jim. Good afternoon, everyone. 30 years of QPC. Wow, it's a great partnership between industry, customers, and GSA. And together we've made some really great important updates to our furniture programs over the years. I'm excited to update you all on our progress with catalog management and what that means for you exactly. So for those of you I haven't met, my name is Kate Koch, and I am a program analyst with the Catalog Management Office. I am joined today by my colleague, Becky Kaufman, who is also a program analyst with the CMO, as well as my boss, Peter Hahn, our business requirements branch chief. So before we dive into the slides, we just wanted to take a quick poll to get a feel for our audience today. So if we could throw up the first. So the poll should say, here we go, cool. So we're looking to increase the number of products represented on GSA Advantage to improve market research and purchasing functions for our customers. What percentage would you say of your products on your GSA schedule contract do you currently list on GSA Advantage? So we'll give you about a minute, 30 seconds, to respond. So, 0%, less than 25%, somewhere between 25 and 50, 51 to 75, 75% or 100%, you publish all your products on your schedule contract to GSA Advantage. Okay, let's see where the results are. There we go, cool. Okay, so it looks like we're kind of all across the board. Biggest group is less than 25% of your products on schedule. Okay, that's really great feedback, and we thank you for that. I think we'll be able to address all of your questions and concerns in the next few slides. So our agenda for today is first, I'm just going to provide an overview of the Common Catalog platform. Then Becky will provide some updates on the verified product portal, and then we want to leave some time open for Q&A. So the Common Catalog platform is a new application for vendors and the acquisition workforce to manage catalog data. It is a modern web-based application accessible from any web browser, replacing the SIP application, which required users to download a desktop application and didn't allow for collaboration. So the platform will have a common user interface for GSA contractors, GSA workforce, and the vendor support center, so that all users will have a similar experience when working on the platform. So contractors will be able to submit, modify, and view their entire GSA catalog. The workforce will be able to view and approve or reject catalog updates, and the VSC will be able to view catalogs, transaction error, and audit logs. So by implementing the Common Catalog platform, we will resolve the disjointed workflow between contracting systems, SIP, and the contracting officer review system or course. Vendors will access CCP from Emod to submit catalog details before submitting contractual actions, thereby integrating the catalog action with the modification process. The price proposal template and the SIP catalog will be consolidated into one document, the product file, which will be customized based on contractor responses to contractual requirements, reducing user confusion on which fields are required in your response. And finally, the product file will integrate the market research report or the 4P file to COs. Vendors will receive market research before submitting a contractual action, streamlining the modification process for both the vendors and the acquisition workforce. So the CCP will be integrated with Emod, thereby bringing together the catalog management process with the contract modification process, resulting in improved data integrity, as we are able to ensure that what is posted to GSA Advantage accurately reflects what was awarded on contract. So how do you get to the Common Catalog platform? Once you have baselined your contract, in order to update your catalog, you will initiate a modification in Emod. Once you have baselined your, you'll be sent to the platform to manage your product file. Once the product file is complete and validated, the platform will send the file to Emod so that you may complete your modification submission. The CO would be able to access your catalog file in the platform to review the changes. If necessary, they'll negotiate. If not, they will generate the SF30, and then you will sign the SF30 in Emod. After the CO signs and awards the mod, the Common Catalog platform sends the approved catalog to GSA Advantage. So overall, the general workflow will remain the same. The only difference is instead of submitting the catalog update to SIP or EDI after the mod is awarded, now the Common Catalog platform will publish your catalog to GSA Advantage. And I think we have another quick poll. So if we could throw that up before the next slide. Cool. So again, GSA is looking to increase the number of products represented on GSA Advantage to improve market research and purchasing functions for customers. So what percentage of products on your scheduled contract are you able to represent on an e-commerce website? If you have any barriers to posting on GSA Advantage, if you can add them in the Q&A module, that would be great too. So I'll give everybody like 20 seconds to respond to the poll. Okay, what results do we got here? Okay, very similar to the results from the previous poll. Less than 25% of my products on my schedule are able to be represented on an e-commerce website. So we will, under the new Common Catalog platform, there will be an option to use the legacy price proposal template. The new product file is a combined price proposal template and SIP file. So like I said, the platform will still accept the legacy price proposal template, but those items will not be published on GSA Advantage and will not be ingested into the platform. So another benefit of the platform is integrated market research. So whereas in the current environment, the GSA workforce runs the market research report after a modification has been submitted, now when the contractor initiates a modification and accesses the platform, they will automatically receive a market research report. This will allow you to make any necessary updates before you submit your modification. And so we're currently in design and development of the Common Catalog platform. We're intending to pilot with a small group of mass contractors in early FY23. After that, we then intend to transition users to the platform in waves based on number of items on GSA Advantage and location of contract administration, so that we're kind of rolling out regionally as well. We will definitely be communicating with new users well in advance of transition. So just keep an eye out for future communications from us, Catalog Management Office. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Becky to give us an update on the Verified Products Portal.
Thanks, Kate. We can hop into my next slide. So hi, everybody. I'm Becky Kaufman. I'm also with the Catalog Management Office. I'm going to briefly talk to you about the new Verified Products Portal, and then we'll open it up to Q&A if we have enough time. So the Verified Products Portal, or the VPP as I'm going to call it, is maybe something you've heard of before. It's been around for a little over a year at this point, but if not, it is a manufacturer and wholesaler facing portal. So these are entities that don't necessarily have a contractual relationship with GSA. They could have a contractual relationship, but they could also just be entities that source items represented on GSA Advantage. And the VPP enables them to submit what we call authoritative product content, or how they would like their item represented, as well as supplier authorization information, meaning information about who can sell it. And together, this enables VPP participants to improve the representation of their commercial off-the-shelf items in the federal marketplace. So we currently have information for about 350,000 items, and we are focused on expanding coverage because of the significant benefits that the VPP brings to the table. It enables us to enforce product prohibition rules, such as prohibited countries and manufacturers. But the big one for our industry partners is really that it lets us automate the letter of supply. So if a VPP participant provides information about who can supply their items, that automates, fulfills the letter of supply requirement, and no longer have to manage those individual letters. So significant administrative burden reduction there. And then most excitingly for our customers, we're also using the information to improve catalogs on GSA Advantage, which I am going to now show you on the next slide. So this is a picture of an Advantage page prior to the VPP connection. So you can see, no image, a limited product description, just not really a great page for making a purchasing decision from. And then on the next slide, you'll see the connection after the VPP has enriched it. So you'll see there's an image, an expanded product description, both of which are sourced from the VPP. We do still include information the contractor submits. So if there were photos from the contractor, that would also be included after the VPP image. And you'll see that the original description is still included too. And then on the next slide, I'm going to get into the other main component of the VPP. So I like to say there's two large value streams for the VPP. There's improving the product content on Advantage for our customers, which I just showed you. And then there's also improving the compliance of our contracts. Customers really expect GSA to be a compliant place they can purchase from. So last spring, we made an update to the solicitation that requires contractors to comply with manufacturer authorization programs. And we just piloted a new RoboMod to remove products offered by unauthorized suppliers on GSA Advantage. So these products are often fraudulent, counterfeit, gray market. They negatively impact the customer purchasing experience. They can undermine things like manufacturer-backed guarantees and warranties. So this RoboMod automatically issues the modification to remove the items, low burden for the workforce and for contractors, ensures the contract requirements are met and that customers can purchase from GSA and from all of you with confidence. So this pilot addressed about 75,000 items, and we'll continue to use the VPP to monitor products on GSA Advantage to keep a compliant federal marketplace. So if you are a manufacturer or you work with a manufacturer who you think might benefit from participating in the VPP, it is voluntary and it is free. You can send them to gsa.gov/VPP, and there will be more information there about how to get started. And then on the next slide, I'm just going to give you a little more information about what we're looking ahead to do with the VPP. So we are, planning to continually enhance the way we use the information. We'll be looking to integrate additional information to Advantage, such as product 360s and videos, as well as improving the consistency of green icons. And like I mentioned before, we're focused on growing the portal so that we can increase product coverage and improve the information available for managing catalogs. Long-term, our goal is to make the VPP data available via the CCP, which Kate was just talking about, the CCP, to populate and manage catalogs. This would, significantly reduce the administrative burden associated with reporting product details up front. So our project is very iterative. That is a ways off, but it is a longer-term goal of ours. So with that, that does wrap up my information about the VPP. So I'll turn it back over to Jim if we have time for Q&A. And if not, I will just thank you all for your time.
Well, good news, Kate, Peter, and Becky. We do have time for Q&A, and we have several questions that have come in. So I'm sure you guys are over the moon. So I'll get right to it. We have a question that says, how will products that have tiers of pricing be handled along with optional choices?
That is a good question. So tiers of pricing, I think that'll eventually be something further down the line that we'll look into. And Peter, feel free to jump in. We recognize that there is a need to address, built to order or, custom type items, and that we're going to have to be a little bit more flexible with the way that we, ingest pricing for that.
Yeah, on the product file, we're going to have a tab for quantity or volume discounts. So that's the tier pricing that we're going to have as part of our first iteration. If you had something different, then please let us know, and something that maybe we can add as a post MVP feature. That's for the tier pricing. The options, we're also still going to have a tab on our product file. It's basically a spreadsheet that has similar to how SIP has the options to build out what sort of options you have per base or accessory. That also is something that we're building into the spreadsheet as well. If you have any feedback or any questions or comments on that, we'd love to hear that as well.
Thank you. Our next question is about the 4P tool. They're saying that they feel the 4P market research is flawed and does not accurately compare pricing. They're wondering if there are any efforts to address this in the software. I don't know if you've heard similar concerns in the past about 4P.
I would say that we're constantly, always trying to improve and get better, sources of data. I think that's kind of a big part of the reason that we're doing what we're doing, especially with, VPP and, the CCP, is that, we're getting better data coming in. And once, having better data coming in is going to get us better data results, in our market research report.
And one of the features of VPP is that, we recognize a lot of the 4P market research is looking backwards, but, if there's any sort of upcoming, due to inflation, due to any sort of supply of materials, oftentimes that's more forward. There is something in the VPP where we're asking manufacturers to give us some of that information so we can consolidate that market research and present that to our contracting officers and to our vendors, so that we can provide a more in-depth pricing analysis.
Thank you. And we have time for one more, and it's specifically for you, Kate. So, best of luck. It says, historically, GSA Advantage has not been used heavily for furniture products. Selecting and specifying furniture orders is problematic because of the multiple features and options. Have your efforts included analyzing the GSA Advantage sales history for the NAICS codes referenced under the furniture SIN? And they're saying hopefully CCP will evolve in directions that help address these historical disconnects. And I can, repeat any part if you.
That is a good question.
Yes.
No, so we, again, we recognize that, there's not a one size fits all solution. I believe there are furniture products that can be published on GSA Advantage and are published today. But there's also just going to be products that, again, are, built to order, custom, requires a more hands-on approach to ordering. You're not going to go on GSA Advantage and order an entire floor of office furniture. Clearly there's still, a human element to that. But again, we're doing, the best we can iteratively to capture, this information. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Great job, Kate. Thank you.
Thanks.
That's the time we have for questions. Again, I'll remind everyone, as I do, it seems like at the end of every presenter, that we will get the questions that we weren't able to get to. We will answer them in written form in a Q&A document and get them out to everyone after the QPC. So coming up is our final presentation, or excuse me, our final small business spotlight. And it comes from Savoy Contract Furniture. Savoy is a woman-owned small business manufacturing company specializing in wood and upholstered furniture based out of Montoursville, Pennsylvania. All right, thank you. Our final presentation for today's main QPC session comes from Steve Sizemore, Deputy Director for the MAS Program Management Office. Steve?
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Let me share my screen very quickly here. All right. So again, thank you. Thank you for having me today. I really appreciate that and being part of this event. I do want to just take a few minutes here to give some updates from the MAS PMO perspective about the overall program. And I do want to talk about the transactional data reporting planned expansion and give you some details on that. And then I'll cover the EPA letter that was covered a bit earlier today, but just maybe share a few additional thoughts around that. So, and a few other minor things as well. So let's just run through these slides. First of all, we'll jump into the transactional data reporting. We are planning for the end of this year, by the end of this year, to have the transactional data reporting rule, the TDR rule, expanded to all SINs across the program. Right now, I know there are some furniture SINs that do have transactional data reporting available, but we are planning currently to expand to all SINs across MAS. Right now, we have 330 SINs in the program, and 63 of them are TDR eligible. So we want to expand to the remaining SINs. And this will be done through a solicitation refresh. And it's going to be something that if you choose to join TDR, that you will have to opt in, right? So it's not going to be done through a MAS modification where you would sign that MAS modification to go into TDR. We found that to be problematic, so we don't want to do it that way again. We did that during the pilot, and some people got in that didn't realize they were getting in. So we don't want that to happen this time. And so we're going to simply add the authority through the solicitation to expand it to all SINs in the program. And then as an interested contractor, you would simply do a modification to your contract to opt into TDR. So what is TDR if you don't know? Let me jump over here, and I'm going to go live here. I hope this works okay. I think it's working fine. I click that link, and of course you have the slides. You can click the link and go over there. But I just wanted to briefly show you the page, the transactional data reporting. This is actually a new page. It was just stood up a couple of weeks ago. We had some various TDR information out there on the sites and some attachments and some documents, but as we're thinking about expanding TDR, we needed a more prominent place right on the website. So the shortcut is gsa.gov/TDR, and we will continue to build out and add information to the page as we go along through expansion. But TDR is really where you are reporting. If you don't know what it is, it's where you're reporting your sales at the transactional level. So that transactional data, really the price that you sold something for, we call it prices paid data. What did the government pay for something? And so you're reporting that level of data, and you do so on a monthly basis rather than reporting your lump sum sales on a quarterly basis. Now, the trade-off for you in reporting monthly and reporting that level of detail is if you choose to opt into TDR, is that you no longer have to comply with the commercial sales practices. The price reduction clause is not applicable, and you do not have to identify a most favored customer and have a basis of award customer. And so those things go away under TDR, and you're not required to do that tracking and making sure you're compliant with basis of award and making sure that you don't violate your price reduction clause because it's not applicable. So if you want to take a look at this page, and as you scroll down, you'll see here are the 11 data elements that you would be required to report. That likely will change a bit as we go into expanding the program. We are looking at the elements to make sure we're collecting the right information. So I think there may be a few additional data fields. I don't think it's going to grow substantially, but we're just taking a look at everything. TDR has been around for about 5 to 6 years as a pilot program within the MASS program, and we're just taking the opportunity to expand it. I do want to say that it is conditional on a couple of things that we have to do internally. And so the terminology that I'm using, we have a planned expansion in the November-December timeframe. And so some things we have to do internally around data quality and data standardization. And we have to do some workforce training, and we have some oversight things we have to address with our oversight groups. And so I feel confident that we're going to be able to meet those requirements and those conditions and be able to move forward with the expansion. So I just want to qualify what I'm saying about expanding with that. If you scroll down further on this site, you will see the large category sins there. The large category and sins that are currently eligible. Again, there's 63 of those. And then as you scroll a bit further, you'll see some of the differences between TDR and non-TDR contracts. So this is probably a really good place to start in trying to learn more about TDR. This will tell you that for TDR, for example, the CSP disclosure is not applicable, and it certainly is for non-TDR offers, and just write down the list there. So you can explore that. You can also click these links to the regulatory references and learn more about TDR. There's some notes there for new offers and for existing contractors at the bottom. So again, this page, this link here in the presentation will take you to that page. The other thing I want to do is talk about economic price adjustments just a little bit. I'm going to jump to another presentation. We also included this presentation in the package of slides that you received. And so I want to, sorry about this, I thought it would start from the beginning. This is a presentation that was done to industry by our Office of Policy and Compliance. I don't have time to go through all of the slides, so I'm going to go rather quickly here and point out a few things that I think is very important and worth pointing out. Obviously, we know that we are in a very difficult financial time across the nation, and we had really a need to provide some relief within the MASS program to allow folks to adjust prices, allow companies, contractors to adjust their prices more so than what was standard in the program. And so there's a couple of clauses here that I just want to point out that are operative probably for you to be aware of if you are submitting a price increase. So the first is on the left is typically for services. It's a federal supply service or federal supply schedule rather, clause 969, and it allows you to do a market indicator or fixed annual rates. The limitations on price or economic price adjustments, and this is for both clauses. If you look to the other clauses, primarily for products, the 552.21670 clause, both of those have the same limitations, and that is no price increases within the first 12 months of the contract, no more than 3 price increases per year, no increase 30 days from the prior request, within 30 days from the prior request, and then no increases 60 days before the contract ends. And so those were the restrictions that we had on the price increases. And basically the letter that was issued, the MV 2202 letter, temporary moratorium on enforcement of certain limitations, it really just simply relaxes those time limitations. So it takes away those conditions that I just talked about on the previous on the previous slide, no more than 3 times per year, no more than once every 30 days, and so forth. So we have relaxed those, and you now can do more than 3 price increases per year, right? You can come in and ask for an increase that goes higher than the cap of 10% on most contracts, 5% for some services, and 4% for human capital. So it relaxes the time limits. It relaxes the limitations on the number of requests. The approval is 1 level above the contracting officer. If you want to go but be above the ceiling of 10% for a price increase. Previously that was at the HCA level. So that's moved down quite a bit there. And then you can also add items back onto the schedule that have been previously removed. You can add those back at a higher price. That's also been relaxed. So this is just more of the same here, that of what the COs no longer have to enforce these items here. And we've talked about those. Here are the percentage ceilings that we talk about. So without this moratorium and this letter, you would be limited to a 10% price increase, 5% for travel, professional services, and 4% for human capital. And so those increases were, those limitations rather, are enforced normally for the contract, but under this acquisition letter that's out there, those have been temporarily lifted. And we had contractors saying to us, 10% is just not enough. We had contractors telling us we're no longer selling under the contract because we're losing money because of the rate of inflation in the country. So we were finally able to answer that and develop this letter to give the relief to allow companies to adjust pricing really to get to where they need to be. This is a slide on on adding a previously removed item at a higher price. And of course, that says the CO must find fair and reasonable, right? So if you take something off, you want to add it back at a higher price. And this is always true. The CO must do that fair and reasonable pricing determination. So, and the documentation requirements that you heard about earlier today are always in play, right? So you must have good documentation. You must have good justification. You must negotiate fair and reasonable pricing with the CO. So always important there. This summarizes what we've already said. Here are the requirements that were changed in the 2 clauses. If you want to take a look at this, and again, I'm going rather quickly here because of time, but we did provide these slides for you. But the limits on timing and frequency were what was changed, and you see the items that were unchanged in the clause. And by the way, let me just mention the second row there, the justification for above the ceiling EPA. You still need to have a justification to go above the ceiling, but it can be approved at 1 level above the CO. And so we made it a little less burdensome for the approval process, a little bit easier there, but you still must have the justification. But the timing and frequency limits are currently not in play. They've just been just a moratorium on enforcing those. And then here's some of just a checklist for documentation. And again, you heard about that, this morning. So, or I keep saying this morning, early afternoon, in the earlier session, you heard about that. So again, leave these with you for reference. Here's some things you should do. Review the mass modification guide and ensure that all required documents are included in the modification package. Extremely important. Just because this moratorium is out there and this letter is out there doesn't mean it's a free-for-all, right? You still have to do good contracting at GSA. Our workforce does, and there's things that they have to do, and you need to look at take a look at the mass modification guide. It's out on the website. So just under mass modification guidance, and it'll come right up. And you need to have clear justification that shows changes in market conditions for anything above the ceiling of again, 10%, as I said earlier. So tell the story in plain language, tie your justification to supporting documents, and explain how conditions impact the entire industry or sector, not just your firm. And then also think about your basis of award discount relationship as you prepare for these price increases. Is something to consider. The mod guidance is linked there on the slide. That'll take you to that website I mentioned that's got all of the modification guidance. There's a manual there, a document you can open up, templates that you may need, and plenty of text on the site. So a lot of good information there at that site. The interact notice also linked there. That will take you to that. So the notice of the letter is there, and a copy of the letter is there. So you can send general questions to the Mass PMO at gsa.gov, and then contract specific questions should go to your assigned contract specialist or contracting officer. And so that's what I wanted to cover there. Let me jump back up and back over to my primary slides. And so the next thing I wanted to just point out is the vendor support center. If you haven't been there lately, I would urge you to take a look at it. Let me just click that. I'm clicking everything else today. I might as well show you the live site. If you haven't looked at the VSC in a while, you'll know that it has changed. You'll note here that it's changed quite a bit. The old site was very outdated. It looked like a 1990s website in many ways. And it's been updated to a new look and feel. The updated, the information rather has been updated on every page. We put in a search function. So we did not have a search function previously. So for instance, you can go to ACO locator if you want to know who your ACO is, and click search, and it says who do I deal with from GSO or from GSA, and you can look for your PCO and your ACO and your IOA. So here's the ACO locator. You put in your contract number, your IOA locator is there, and put in those contract number. Now the PCO is listed in GSA library as it says here, and you can go over there and get the PCO information right out of GSA library. We have information on the site about managing your contract. You can check the file status for your SIP files and so forth. You need to register your contractor if you're a new contractor. Contract compliance is here, contract management, the startup kit, all of this information available for you here for contract management. There's a section here for contractors potentially thinking about getting on the scheduled contract. And so that information is there, lots of good information there. In terms of getting on the scheduled contract, we recently updated the MASH roadmap. I wanted to mention that. I'm not going to click over to that one. But the site, the link there, of course, is there for you in the slides. A lot of good information on there. Even if you are already have a contract, there may be some things there that you would find useful. One of the things I've been letting people know about is part of the roadmap and part of what you go through in getting a new contract is the Pathways to Success training and the readiness assessment. We did change the way that works back in December, and we shut down the old vendor education center. We redid the Pathways to Success training. If you're on this call, you're likely a contractor already. But one thing that is useful with that Pathways to Success training, it's a lot of great information in there about the program and about how your contract works. So a lot of companies will take that Pathways to Success training, and by the way, it is now a PDF document of a slide presentation, but it's very informative. We put a lot of instructions and a lot of text in it, a lot of links. It'll probably take 3 or 4 hours to do it justice and go through it and look at the links and so forth. But a lot of companies have told me they take that Pathways to Success training and give it to their contracting staff, not just their negotiators or authorized negotiators or those involved in the managing the GSA contract, but people on board that need to know about the contract, whether it's new people, whether it's business development people, or just anyone that needs to know more details about the GSA contract. It's a great resource. You can find it on the MASH roadmap. Just look for Pathways to Success training. And it's a great resource to share with people. If you're a new contractor or know a new contractor or someone that's new trying to get a contract, I should say, please point them to the MASH roadmap. A lot of great information there. We've updated it, relaunched it, and it is a bit fresh and new and some redesign. And the information certainly has been updated and made a bit more logical in its flow and a bit more succinct. So I think you'll find it useful. And then the contractor modification guidance, it was also linked on the in that other slide presentation that I jumped into for a moment there about the EPA. But I just want to make sure that you are aware of this website. I'll just go ahead and click that one as well. But modifications and mass modification guidance. So this will help you in terms of understanding the modification process. A lot of contractors don't know this site exists. And so there is a guide right here, mass modification guidance. That is just a PDF document that walks you through the process. So you can take a look at that. There's cover letters, there's change of name agreement formats, novation agreements, all of this information here. The price proposal template is very important. So we do get questions from contractors from time to time asking, where do I find the price proposal template for a modification? It's right here on this page. So you see those there where my cursor is, and you can link to that from this site here. So I wanted to just give you these resources to help you out maybe and share some information with you. Another great resource is the Mass Desk reference. We have that available at CMLS, at the GSA.gov CMLS website. We are going to update it in the fall. And look, I started to take that sentence off that says, let me know if you have input. But if you do, I want to hear from you, really, because we take input and try to make this guide better. We update it every 2 to 3 years. Winter 2019 is the latest version. But if you have any input into anything mass in this guide, especially, you can always email us at masspmo@gsa.gov, and the email address is on the beginning slide, on the first slide of this presentation. And then OLM ordering guide. Now, this is something that you may have not heard of. It's only been out for about 3 weeks now. It's the first OLM ordering guide that we've published. It's been a while in coming. We've needed it. And it took a bit because there kept being changes in some of the rules, and we kept holding it up, waiting on rules to change and regulations to change. We finally got to a point where we felt like we could release it and be confident in it. So it's about 20 pages. I know there's a lot of questions around OLMs. There's sections in there for both ordering activities and for contractors. And so take a look at that. I think it will help you understand the OLM process. We know that since OLMs have been around for about 4 years now, there has been a lot of confusion, a lot of gray area. We've tried to answer that in the some of the questions. We put a few key frequently asked questions in the ordering guide, and also on the website. We updated the website when we released the manual or the guide, and the guide is available for download through the website at gsa.gov/OLM. There's also a frequently asked questions document there. There's pages and pages. I think it's 15 pages or something of frequently asked questions there. A lot of great information that we went through and updated the questions and expanded and just shared some additional information that probably we didn't have when we rolled OLMs out. Again, trying to address some of the gray areas. So take a look at those resources. And then very quickly, I just want to mention that these slip sheets. So benefits of the multiple award schedule program. This is actually targeted more towards buyers. This is something you may want to share with your customers if they're new to the program, or if they need resources around the program. You may want to share this with your customers. You may want to look at it yourself and educate you and your staff with it. But you can actually download the PDF version. It's of course just a one pager back and front, but you can download that and get it through that link there. That's at the top. We also have one on blanket purchase agreements. I'm sure some of you are involved in BPAs. This is really just a high level overview of BPAs, how they work, some of the things that can be done, and then links to more information. This is a newly published sheet. All of these slip sheets are out in the last few months. So I just wanted to highlight them and give you a link to those if you'd like to take a look at those. And again, please share them if you get a chance. You're talking to your customers. We find a lot of customers, buyers out there that are new to the program and need more information on the program. You can share these resources with them. They may not be aware of them. The last one is Getting On Mass. That's available. It's a quick overview of how to get on the schedule with lots of links in there as well. Again, you can download it through the link, but just some communication pieces that we put together in the past few months to help kind of summarize some things, some of the things that we see very important, such as BPAs, getting on schedule and so forth, to help people get started and point them in the right direction. So those are what those are for. I wanted to mention office hours. If you're not aware of this, we have a monthly office hours for industry, as you can see there, and you see the dates there coming up. We do those kind of an open forum type format. We will bring a topic. Sometimes we don't have as much time for others for questions. I know last month in April, we had 2 presentations that were 30 minutes each, but a lot of times we will just do 15 or 30 minutes of a presentation and then just open it up for Q&A. And so we get questions all over the place, all over the map when we do that, but it's always good, I think. So take a look at that, attend if you can. We'd love for you to be there. You can register, it's through Zoom. Easy registration, and once you register for one, you're registered for all the future ones, and so you can check that out. And then I just wanted to mention the category information pages if you need more information on mass categories. Of course, I highlighted the furniture one in red for this presentation, but all of the other categories are listed there if you want to take a look at those, have any interest in those. And then same thing for Interact, our Interact groups. We have a mass group that's at the top there. Catalog management has a group, and then with the categories, each have a group, and they're listed there for you. So that's what I have. I'll turn it back to you, and if there's any questions, I'll be glad to do so, Jen.
Thanks, Steve. We're running a little bit, right on schedule here, so we don't really have time for questions again. But I do thank you, and again, final reminder to everyone that we will be answering the questions that you asked in the Q&A box in a written document and getting those answers out. So even though we didn't have a chance to answer them live, we will answer them and get everyone a response. So thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Okay, this concludes the main session of today's 30th anniversary QPC. I'd like to thank all of our presenters today and everyone who worked tirelessly behind the scenes to make today happen. I'd like to thank all of you who have attended for what I can only assume was the full 2.5 hours. Instructions for the breakout sessions and links to each session are on the screen. They also are listed in the chat window and should be in the copy of the slides that were emailed and also in the chat window. There are 2 breakout sessions today, and you have a choice of 2 options for each session. They are 30 minutes long, and the first one begins at 3:25. If you are unable to attend a particular breakout session, please know we are recording the breakouts, and they will be available along with the main recording in the near future. If you are having trouble getting into a breakout session, Ivana Henry will stay in the Zoom room to provide any assistance to those who may need it. Lastly, I'd like to give a big thanks to 2 members of the business development team who helped with the QPC, but have recently moved on to new positions. Chris Stein, who many of you know very well, and had planned many QPCs in the past, moved to her new position in March, but helped assist with some of the planning in this year's QPC. And I know it's been mentioned before, but Ivana Henry, who planned, organized, and ran everything behind the scenes for today's QPC to make it possible, even though she did technically begin her new position of Monday this week. I don't know how we could have done it without you, but I'm sure, Ryan, don't worry, we'll figure it out for next QPC. And by that, I mean, I'll likely bother Ivana some more. So thank you very much, everyone, for attending. As a reminder, the breakout sessions begin at 3:25. The links are on the screen, and Ivana will be staying on to help anyone with any assistance needed to get to the breakouts. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.